And it just feels like there needs to be like a Hogwarts of that's like full spectrum of like all of the different things that you might encounter and all of the ways to kind of deal with it, but from, I don't know, from like another perspective.
Well, if people are interested in learning, I'm here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm actively teaching, and I'm
Yeah.
actively sharing ceremony, and I actively talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so honestly, if anyone is interested in learning these skills and being part of these understandings inside and outside of psychedelic consciousness and the sacred plants and ayahuasca, that's what we're here for. That's the service we provide.
Yeah. And I encourage people to check that out. And I know that during pandemic and times you were leading dietas, which is one of the strong practices where you actually get the strength of a plant or a tree, you know, inside your consciousness body and can call on that ally. And I've been speaking about how cinnamon has been such a strong ally for me. And I imagine if I re-dieted rose again, which I would like to do, you know, I would learn even more. And, you know, as my own consciousness is developed and my own ability to connect with these, you know, what can be seemingly abstract energies, but as they've become more real to me, it's, I just feel, even though I'm by no means a black belt in this world, I feel so much more at ease than a lot of the people that I know who go into different ceremonies and things, just from like the very basic training. Just like I feel very much at ease when I'm in a nightclub and people are drunk and I'm with, you know, my wife who's beautiful and her friends. And I'm like, I know enough, you know, maybe not enough for like the best of you, but I know enough for most of you. And like, that makes me feel a certain type of confidence that allows me to explore the edges a little bit more. And I think, I don't know, I guess I just encourage that. I encourage that becomes part of the conversation and part of the zeitgeist, not the dominating part, but just a little bit more awareness that we're not helpless to these beings and these things. There's places where we can find refuge. There's places where we can bring our energy. There's places where we can build our team, our squad, and not to overdo it, because I've also seen that where people are in full conflict mentality all the time. And I've stepped into ceremony with them and everything is just distortion. It's just like,
that's delusion.
That's delusion. All of everything they see is light versus dark. It's all polarity. It's all that. And so it can certainly go way overboard. And that's the caveat. It's like you start, you know, training like a hammer and everything becomes a nail, you know? So it's like, it has to be this really full spectrum approach to medicine in general. And I've, you know, just always appreciated that about you, that you've trained like a warrior for most of your life, but then spend most of your practice actually helping to bring people to a place where they don't need to go to war.
That's the nature of the skills themselves, right? Just because you have the skills and you have the tools doesn't mean you need to flex them and you need to use them all the time. The whole point of having it is so that you can actually discern the difference between your own delusions and actual threat. And how big of a threat is it if you have the tools to deal with it? That takes the threat way down. So then I have to start thinking, wow, the alarm inside my head that that's really a threat isn't really a threat because I have the tools to actually deal with it. And so now the negatives of the psychedelic space and the ayahuasca space and psilocybin space, et cetera, which there are many, and people talk endlessly about all the things that could go wrong. All these tools and all of these skills are there to minimize all of those potential dangers to the point that you actually have something that's safe, sane, and professional to do. So I think that's really the point behind it, right? It's not like you have skills to be able to defend yourself, so you go looking for a fight. You have skills to defend yourself so that if a fight comes to you for any reason whatsoever, you can stop it before it becomes a big fight.
Yeah.
And if you get yourself caught in a really big fight, the most important thing to do is to have a squad and allies and friends who can just gather around you together in one moment and just end it. Just end it as fast as it started. Just shut that down. I was involved in conflicts that took 10 years to stop. Like really gnarly stuff early on. When I got to the Amazon, it was at the end of an evolution of incredible violence between the practitioners. And so I got involved in a lineage that was healing that stuff. And the nature of the conflicts would last decades. The mythological stories told amongst the people in the small towns was that these conflicts between shamans was lasting, 10, 20 years, 30 years, and that it would flare up and there would be all sorts of battle and then ultimately deaths and stuff associated with it. And so, going into that and seeing it for what it ultimately was from the very beginning, I realized there's no reason that stuff has to ultimately play out for such a long period of time. There's no reason that any of that stuff has to actually be that way anymore, as long as we have the skills and the technologies and the techniques and the people together to be able to just bring an end to it much faster than that. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been developing over the last 20 years, is how to ultimately be just more effective, right? So even when we're talking about it, there's like this polarity already there. Are the defensive arts separate from the healing arts? Well, not really. There's no place to heal unless you have the defensive arts. Right? It's like, go to society and think whether you can have an operating room if there are no police and no rules and nothing governing who goes into the operating room or not. You don't have an operating room. Mm-hmm. In consciousness, it's exactly the same. In the psychedelic space, it's exactly the same. You want this big, beautiful space to be able to do this big, psychic, elaborate surgery healing thing, and it just gets bombarded by everyone's shadow. Everyone who's there's shadow will just start corrupting that space and putting all different kinds of codes going through it, like all these different TV channels of different energies that, have no place being there. So you have to somehow be able to create a boundary around the nature of that space so that somebody's consciousness can be in that space and receive from that space the way it was designed and created. So I just think it's naive the way people are talking about this. It's like, it's like baby. It's like a baby way of understanding this. And that's appropriate considering that, especially in the psychedelic renaissance, that it's just starting. Mm-hmm. Give it 10 years, give it 20 years, give it 30 years. There will be a lot more in the culture about this and more understanding about it as it becomes more important. The tribal lineages kept all of this secret for a number of different reasons. One, they thought it was bad press. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, what do you mean there's all this going on about this? Two, it was their secrets. They had no reason to share. Right. They had no reason to share this outside of their own lineages and stuff. And so, the people didn't really talk about it much. I got into it simply like I was thrown to the wolves. And when I woke up to what was going on and I saw Westerners coming down to participate in these ceremonies, I thought they needed to know. So I just thought it was an aspect of information and responsibility to have to share the fact that this was real. And even before I went, I was warned, but I didn't understand what to do with the warning. I was just told by a practitioner in Santa Cruz, California. She just said, "Oh, be very careful when you go down there. They don't think about this like the way we do." It was just simple as that. That's all they said. I didn't know what they meant, or she meant when she said they don't think about it the way we do. I'm like, oh, now I understand. They don't think that that's bad. They don't think that that's wrong. They think that's the way it is and the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it's always been going on, right? And so in understanding that, as the psychedelic renaissance, grows and more people participate and experience this, you have to understand you're going to awaken your own shadow. You're also going to awaken your own heart. But when you awaken your shadow, you have a choice. You either learn to deal with it or it's going to get stronger. And if it gets stronger, it's not going to help you in your life. It's not going to help you deal with anything. It's going to literally make your life worse. Mm-hmm. And so we have to take that into consideration and be responsible and thoughtful about that. We need to understand that we don't want our shadow to get stronger. We need to set our intention to bring our shadow down. We need to understand that we need to bring the light and the divinity and the real understandings up. We need to understand that we have to learn the protective arts. Maybe it's not about battle anymore. Maybe it's just about protections. Mm-hmm. Like a seatbelt's protective. Anti-lock brakes are protective. Should you take those off the car because you don't think you need them anymore? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we learned all those technologies for a reason. Let's have those technologies. Let's use them in a safe way. And then let's, be able to walk very gently upon the earth and live in bliss. Mm-hmm. But then, if you come across a lion, you'll know what to do. And if you come across a delusional, paranoid, schizophrenic, angry, delusional, psychopathic sapien, you might also know what to do.
Be prepared. Yeah, be prepared.